Good Friday morning, Mr. Jabor. How are it's been a lot it's a short week, but sometimes those short weeks are long weeks, Andy.
Yeah, you were saying that on Wednesday. I think you're feeling it this week, but yeah, I'm glad it's Friday. It's a good football weekend,
Yeah.
middle of the month of November. Dave, it's my birthday today, so I'm
Whoa,
I'm,
whoa,
I'm happy to. No,
whoa.
thank you, thank you. So here we are. Happy Andy's birthday to you and all that are listening. I hope that my arrival in this world makes your day a little bit better.
Yeah, no, that's my day is now better. Happy birthday to you, Andy
Thank you,
Jabor. I
thank
mean,
you.
turning 39 is pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
these days,
yeah.
so
It's
can
been
we
a couple
make
years since 39, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
is it the classic dad joke where you do that like, "Oh, happy 39th birthday," when you know you're really older than 39? I don't know.
Yeah, 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 I'm good with, I'm 48, Dave. I'm good with that. My whole thing is I want to be, at my best yet when I hit 50, which is, approaching. So still working on it, kind of worked on the cancer a little bit this last year and hopefully, keep moving forward healthier and whatever else the hell is going on these next couple of years. But glad to be here with you, Dave. And I mean, your major milestone's coming up not too long from now. I'm excited for you. So we're
Yeah, I
looking,
got the big 5-0 coming up this
yeah.
next year, both my wife and I. So we were debating like, should we have some big event or should we just go on with ourselves? And so we'll have to see how that plays out
Yeah.
for the year. But yeah, big 5-0 coming up, and it's hard to think about these because like 50, it just is the like when we were growing
Yeah,
up, it always was like that's super old, and
yeah,
now you're this age, and you're like, well, I don't feel that old. I
yeah.
still, so
I remember being a kid walking in, and my aunt had a t-shirt on celebrating her 40th birthday, and I was like, 40? Like that's so old,
yeah,
And then yeah, like you said, years later, you're like, oh no, this I feel I'm a young man.
yeah,
I'm a young man,
yeah. And you got Mama Jabor, who's racking up the years as well up there. She looks
young lady.
great and still as sharp as ever. My dad's 78, Andy.
Yeah,
It's just like, and he's still moving around, doing all his great things. It just is, it's a little crazy. So good stuff there.
yeah.
So,
But Dave,
well, happy.
that's not the important thing. What are we discussing on this fine birthday Friday?
Nice transition there, Andy. I just wanted to wish you one more happy birthday. We all wish you the best. But all right, Andy, let's get into some stuff. We'll start with sports,
All right.
uh, Andy, and we'll go with the football game last night. The Eagles ultimately pulled away from the Commanders. The Commanders might be hitting like might be hitting a rough patch here. They still play the Cowboys though 2 times, so there's two more wins locked in there. But it, Andy, you're messing around with
Yeah.
the.
Sorry,
I
sorry.
don't know what you're doing here, but um, the um, the Commanders might be hitting a wall here. But it was a prime time showing for one of the league's top running backs
Yeah.
last night, Saquon Barkley, who wound up with a close to 150 yards. He's over 1100. He leads the league in rushing already, but he's only a little bit ahead of Travis Henry, who still has to play a game. Andy, he dominating performance, and the Giants look bad every time Barkley plays. And what a great fit for the Eagles, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think Derrick Henry did. I think you meant Dave on as far as running, but yeah, he's making a
Yeah.
difference, right? I mean,
What did
this
I
was
say? Tom Henry? What
I
did I
think it's
say?
Travis Henry. I don't know.
Travis? Yeah, no, no,
Thinking
no.
of
Derrick
ETN,
Henry. You're
maybe.
right.
I'm not sure. But regardless, whoever you're fantasizing about over there, I thought one interesting number. This came out of from the NFL in their summary of the game. NFL Research posted this. It's Saquon Barkley has 6 games with 100 plus rushing yards this season. Dave, there's been 10 games, right? Or something along those lines. He's got 600 plus games, the most in the NFL. But more incredibly, he had 6 games over 100 yards between the 2020 and 2023 seasons with the New
Yeah.
York Giants, right? And that tells you really a lot of what you need to know of those two teams, right? I mean, one invested in a line, support, different weapons, built a team. Saquon can come in and perform and do what he does so well, which is run on the green and rack up a lot of yards. And man, he hits and he attacks and he blocks and he spins. I mean, he's a very talented young man. But you look at the hapless Giants, and they just did nothing. They did nothing to make him successful. And I think that's part of what we've seen these last few years. Some of these teams have like gotten off of running backs because they haven't invested in running backs. Like they haven't put the tools together. I mean, we saw Dave with the Lions. We saw still, I think, the greatest running back to ever play the game in Barry Sanders. One great talent, as good as he was, despite some of those really lousy teams, and there were some decent ones. One man can't get it done, and one running back can't be the only thing that makes you successful. But with the other players on the field, when you build a team that can really play, you can be phenomenal. And Saquon Barkley is having just a great season. I'm really happy for him because he deserves it. He deserves it.
Yeah. Yeah, he really does. He's a great all-around person in so many different ways. But to your Barry Sanders comment, what made Barry so amazing was the miraculous runs that he made. But he had to make those because his line was awful.
Yeah,
Like he had to do the spin moves, the jukes, and all this other stuff because his line was awful.
terrible.
But it does bring up a really good point, Andy. For years, the last previous years, we're told, and the reasons why the Giants didn't want to sign Barkley, they didn't want to pay an extra million or $2 million for Barkley, is because they felt like they could get a replacement player and
Yeah.
maybe bulk up around him and stuff. And this idea that you can just make anybody a running back. Hey, Andy, I'm a Cowboys fan, and I can tell you, you can't just put anybody in the backfield and be successful. This idea that wide receivers are the only, like, all you need is to be able to throw the ball for
Yeah.
500 yards a game, and you don't need a running game. Well, that's starting to teeter a little bit, Andy. We're not seeing the massive yardage attacks by quarterbacks anymore. We're seeing a lot like you need an effective run game. So here, Andy, I wanted to do this. Let's run through the top 10 teams here, and let's just say, do they have an established running back or not? And
Okay.
then like determine like maybe it is the running backs do need to come back. So the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy, they're 9-0 now. They've had the patchwork of running back teams
Yeah.
together because their leading rusher got hurt early in the season. So I can't really squash them on this, but I can tell you like Patrick Mahomes is not having a great season as a passer this year. He's got, I think, equal number of touchdowns and interceptions. So Kansas City may be an outlier here, but they wanted to prioritize running. The person got hurt.
Yeah.
All right, number two, you got the Detroit Lions, Andy. I mean, clearly you have two good running backs on that team.
Yeah, and Dave, a great example of where the team, I mean, look, when Brad Holmes drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, I think it was number 12 in the first round, people lost their minds. And they're like, nobody drafts running backs that high anymore. Nobody's complaining today. Like Brad Holmes made the move, made the right pick, got a great player, and then went out and signed David Montgomery from the rival Bears. Nobody's complaining about having Sonic and Knuckles out on the football field. Running backs matter. Brad Holmes knew it. The rest of the NFL needs to wake up and pay attention to it.
Yeah, definitely for sure. All right, number three on the list here is Buffalo, Buffalo, Andy, and you obviously have Josh Allen, who's doing, I mean, he's MVP level, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. On the rushing side, you have James Cook, who has become a pretty good workhorse. Now he's got like less than 600 yards this year, but that's a pretty consistent effort considering that they do prioritize the passing game a lot more in Buffalo.
Yeah.
But they have an established running game, and James Cook is becoming a name for himself. I mean, it's just happening here. So
And I think that's a good example too, where I think it's because partially because they have other tools succeeding on that field. And so they're able to make their running back successful and they're leveraging that, right? But because it's a complete team, right? That's a great example of a complete team.
right, right. Okay, and then you go to the Eagles. We just talked about the Steelers. Also have a very balanced attack. They're not relying solely on their quarterback, but they have a good running game with Najee Harris and a couple others. Minnesota, again, not solely relying on the passing game here because you got Sam Darnold, but you do have a good, a bevy of running backs there. Aaron Jones is really, over 650 yards. He's doing a great job
Yeah.
on this team. And Andy, they're 7-2 with Sam Darnold as a quarterback.
Yeah.
So
Who might not be a bad quarterback, right? Who might not be a
yeah,
bad
yeah.
quarterback, but you're right. Again, that relatively balanced attack.
Yeah. So let me just, I know we're at time here, Andy, but let me just run through the other three. You've got the Ravens, Packers, and Chargers. Andy, All of these are good teams that can run the ball. Whereas you look at the bottom of the lineup, the Jacksonville Jaguars, no running attack. New York Giants, we talked about, have a good rookie running back, but not great. The Raiders, Titans, Browns, Panthers, I mean, Patriots, Cowboys, all of these are at the bottom of the league, all no running games. Maybe we need to bring back. Let's make running backs great again, Andy.
But Dave, as you go through those lists, right? I think it's always hard to tell, right? With the exception of those like incredible talents like a Barry Sanders who don't come across very often. Yeah, they don't have good running backs, but they also don't have good lines. They
Yeah.
also,
Yep.
are some of those cases maybe don't have good coaching, right? So it's not any one thing. It's right now the Jags are getting ready to play the Lions, and those are two teams that have built themselves very differently. A couple of years ago, the Lions and the Jags were 1 and 2 in the draft, and two very different GMs, two very different approaches to building teams, and you can see the results on the field right now, right? So I think it's really, I mean, yes, it is the running back. The running back is important, but he's just one part of an entire effort that's got to come together. Some GMs know how to do that and to really build a team, get the guys in the trenches, build the other players, right? Get the right coach, build the team. And some are just putting crap together, trying to figure out a way to win, bring in this talent, that talent, but just having no coherent strategy. And it shows. And it shows.
Yeah. All right, good run through there, Andy. Okay, so let's go to our next topic here. We're going to go back to politics, Andy, because there's been so much in the news
Yeah.
about some of this, and a lot of it for around the transition team here with now President Trump coming on board. You see a lot of these controversial cabinet picks coming in now, Andy. In the beginning, there was a lot of like pretty even keeled,
Yeah.
a lot of things along those lines. But we're starting to see. We talked about the government efficiency piece right there, Andy, earlier. But then we also saw a couple really groundbreaking areas, Andy. Most notably, Matt Gaetz being the Attorney General of the United States. Really kind of, I don't think anybody suspected that.
Yeah.
But now conveniently, Matt Gaetz doesn't have to face any ethics trials or concerns because he's had some, allegations raised against him. We'll start there, Andy. Any thoughts on Matt Gaetz being the Attorney General?
Okay, so I said on Wednesday I'm going to try and hold to it. My pledge, I'm going to basically wait and see, right, for the most part. And I've got some thoughts on these appointees, and there's a lot of freaking out, and I've got some general thoughts. But with this one specifically, it makes sense from one sense, right? For the incoming president, he's got a diehard loyalist who will go and shit all over the Department of Justice and tear people down, and he'll do everything that Trump needs him to do from a loyalist standpoint. But as far as like, does this pick make any sense whatsoever for this position, the highest law enforcement officer in the land? Like it's a terrible pick. It makes no sense. Right now, I'll come back to appointees and some other thoughts which you could relate back to this, but this is one that's really hard to look at. And you look at the ethics charges that were coming, his sudden resignation because those were coming, it just looks terrible, right? So some people are saying that maybe Trump did this to sort of reward him, has been loyal to him, not expecting him to actually be approved, by the Senate. Maybe, but it seems like a reckless and poor choice overall, right? Overall, now you can like Matt Gaetz or not like Matt Gaetz, but the pick itself doesn't really seem to make very good sense.
The only thing I can think of here is like this, it's a loyalist pick, right? I
Yeah,
mean, this is definitely a loyalist pick. And this is long running. The DOJ has been weaponized against Republicans, and now I'm going to bring Matt Gaetz in to clean it out. Yeah,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
can't wait to see how this really works. I have utter failure as my ultimate result here. Andy, Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. This was somewhat, I like the pick. It's somewhat controversial from the Republican side. They didn't all like it because some people labeled him rhino, some people labeled him different things, but he came on as a potential vice presidential candidate for Trump early on, but settling for Secretary of State, I don't mind this pick.
I mean, it it's a pick, right? And you can argue for or against it. I don't personally, I'm not a huge fan. I think he's, I don't. There's things I disagree with and agree with, but look, he's a young guy who's been loyal. He has some credentials. He's been on the intelligence committee. He can appeal to communities that maybe some of our secretaries haven't in the past. He's trying to build his own credentials so he can run for president again. I think there's nothing wrong with the pick, right? It's a fine pick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Tulsi Gabbard, the former Democratic Congresswoman, now Trump loyalist as well. She's the head of national intelligence, Andy. I have a lot of concerns with this pick. This is where again anybody who thinks they can be who's had any exposure to intelligence is now qualified to run the
Yeah.
national intelligence area. She was a former military intelligence officer in the Army. Uh, Andy, I hate this pick. This is not. I have being a former member of the intelligence community, like these are wannabes who come in and now all of a sudden, they think they know how to solve all the complexities of the intelligence community. You really need somebody, a veteran in this side, and she's not it. So, not a big fan of this pick, Andy.
Yeah, well, I'll use this one, Dave, to talk about what I think my general take on a lot of these picks is, right? Whether it's Gabbard or it's DoD or it's DHS that we've seen so far, EP, like all these picks. Here's what I'd say, right? There's a lot of these picks you sort of looking at like, I don't like really think that's maybe the most qualified person for that role, like right now, right? But they show some similar traits, right? They're all people that the president feels trust and confidence in, right? He personally does. Unlike his first administration, he has confidence in these individuals that they'll be loyal to him and execute his agenda. Okay, so that I get that part of it. A lot of it is like, hey, they're not qualified to run DoD, not qualified to run DNI and so forth. And I think that's true in some respects, right? But here's what it is. When people are in a position before as Congress people, as governors, even as media personalities, they're playing a role. And when you put them in a position like a secretary, they're going to treat that job differently. So I'm going to try and hold my pledge. There's some picture I'm looking at. I'm like, I don't know if this really, like, I don't know if this is good for America. I don't know if it's good for the government. But I'm going to say, like, I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to reserve judgment. I'm going to hold judgment. I'm going to wait and see. One, they might do very differently in these roles, and I'm going to be hopeful because I don't know otherwise, right? Two, Trump's history is that a lot of these folks won't last very long. He's got a habit of firing his secretaries. And let's see what happens there as well. So, I don't want to, there's a lot of picks I question. I don't want to condemn them. I'm going to wait and see what happens. But there's a consistent sort of trend of loyalist, maybe not the most qualified. That goes across almost all of these picks.
Fair enough, Andy. Okay, so and that's holding to your pledge from earlier, then too. So,
Trying.
I think that's good. So, all right, Andy, we're at the end of this piece. There's a bunch more. There's news about should Kamala Harris run for governor of California? Um, Currently, Newsom is not very popular there. There's a lot of bad trends for California, but we'll see how that goes on. The other controversial picks that have come out, we don't need to really get into that. But Andy, let's get into our last segment here.
All right.
I want to do a grab bag. There's a lot of little nitnoy news here. And so I just want to hit some of these highlights for you. Okay. Does that sound all right, Andy?
I'm looking forward to your highlight selection.
All right, Andy, did you see the controversy around Michael Strahan and the national anthem?
I think his hand wasn't in the right place. People thought he was like rejecting the national anthem.
Yeah, everybody like so they he's on the Fox News or I'm sorry, the Fox NFL broadcast and
Yeah.
they're doing the Veterans Day stuff last weekend.
Yeah.
And the other hosts had their hand on their heart and Michael Strahan had his hands clasped as the national anthem was being played or the his hands clasped in front of him.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't change that and he was the only one. Andy, is this a controversy or is this like who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can do what you want. Like, there's not a requirement to put your hand on your heart. I think people try to be respectful in different ways. Sometimes, to be honest, your head's partially there and partially you're thinking whatever else you're thinking. I don't think he was trying to disrespect the United States or our national anthem. I think he was just holding his peace, and I think that's fine. And to be honest, Dave, in these wonderful United States, if he didn't want to put his hand on his heart out of some objection to some issue, policy, whatever, like that's allowed. Like that's okay. It shouldn't be a controversy. Like that's okay. And he's come out and said he didn't mean anything by it. Like there's no story here.
Yeah, I know this is again, this is clickbait stuff and trying to
Yeah.
make it worse. And now he has to come out and defend himself. Look, this is bullshit. Like he can do what he wants. I sometimes put my hands in front of myself and sometimes put my hands on my heart. And sometimes as veterans, we can salute Andy.
Yeah.
So like, does it make you more patriotic one way or the other? No, get a fucking life,
Yeah.
people.
Agree.
Okay, Andy, another interesting thing, how to change my vote searches. Uh,
Yeah.
that spiked after the election in states won by Donald Trump. Uh, I don't know what to make out of this. Any of this. Do you think people regretted their choice after the election, Andy?
I think people know they can't change their votes. I'm not really sure
That's so
what
stupid.
people were thinking, with
Yeah.
that search, but it did legitimately get a lot of hits. So I'm not sure what was going through people's mind. Immediate, buyer's remorse. I don't know what was happening. But Dave, well, I don't know what's going on there. But I also don't know what's going on. I just want to go back for a second. I don't know what's going on with Terry Bradshaw's suit. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of Michael
Oh
Strahan
yeah.
with his hands crossed, but like that's not a controversy. But whatever the hell color that is that Terry Bradshaw is wearing, Terry, that's a controversy, brother. Like, please, like, put on something else. I don't know what color that is. That should be, startling to America.
Yeah, is that in like maroon or like it's really bad. So there's a lot of crazy stuff out there, Andy, with the suits. But yeah, I have no issues with Michael Strahan. And look, like I do think people were like, oh shit, he actually won. I didn't actually think he was gonna win type of thing.
Yeah,
Again, not enough to make any sort of thing, but funny enough to just kind of to note.
yeah.
Okay, Andy, I know you're gonna love this one.
Oh,
But UFO discussions
yeah.
on Congress, Andy. This has been making the rounds on the socials a little bit. There's a lot more UFO discussions and a lot more people. We've had some UFO talk here. We've had advanced civilizations here, or discussion about living under the water and all this other stuff, and people walking among us that are actually aliens, Andy. That just are conveniently not dying or anything like that. It's what do you make of this? I guess it gets new life every couple months, Andy, because mostly because of who's like the questions that are being asked and advanced civilizations living here on the United States in on Earth, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, David, it sounds like it's coming out of a comic book, right? Where we've got Congress people like talking about underwater alien civilizations. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who's like not the sharpest knife in the congressional deck, right? Like,
What?
yeah, I mean,
No.
she genuinely is, and like I'm not trying to disparage her. She's been chosen by a district, a new district, and she used to be in. There's a whole bunch of bullshit around that and our crappy election system. But like listening to her, like I was joking, I think she read an old issue of DC and Marvel comics, right, where they have these underwater, and she's asking about it like it's research. Like I don't know what the hell she's talking about. And it is embarrassing. Like that conversation, like we're paying for that, Dave. We're paying for that line of inquiry in Congress as tax people. Like good God, man. Like come on, come on.
What my only concern is like, what's the point? Well, like, what are we trying to get to? Like,
Nothing, nothing.
uh,
Is DoD hiding alien civilizations? Like I don't know where we're going. I don't know
yeah.
where she's going most of the time. Just, oof, Dave. I mean, if people haven't checked that out, you can see some of the video from that. It was all over the place yesterday. She doesn't stop, giving us things to be impressed by. Good job, Colorado. Good job.
Yeah, good job, Colorado. Keep bringing those people back, right?
Yeah,
All right, Andy, last one we'll cover here for today. Mark Zuckerberg.
yeah.
He's he's a lot of things to a lot of people.
You're no
Um,
fan, Dave. You're no fan.
I'm not a fan of the Zuck, not at all. There's a special place in my heart for him. But what do you think about he's, businessman, obviously he's been successful. Some would say controversially successful. He's also now a rapper, apparently, Andy.
I mean, look, he did a remake of a song. You can listen to it on Spotify if you want. He's very wealthy. He's got time on his hands. He wants to cut a track, out of love for his wife. Like it's not good, His highly auto-tuned voice is not like impressive, but you know what? He's having fun. I don't give a shit. Like have fun. You know what I mean? Like I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I have no major Zuck objections. I think watching him is entertaining to me. I know you don't love him.
Did you want to see the Mark Zuckerberg Elon Musk fight?
I I didn't want to watch it, but
Okay, you didn't want
I
to see
did
it.
find it amusing, and I did think Zuck kind of owned Musk on that in that whole exchange. I thought he did way better than Musk did. Musk looked like an idiot, and Zuck would have kicked his ass. To be honest, he's trains hard. He's in great shape. He's training with really qualified people, and he would kick horribly out of shape Elon Musk's ass if they actually did get into a fight.
Okay, so speaking of fights, Andy, the tonight, I think it's
Yes,
tonight.
it
Tonight,
is. It
Mike
is
Tyson
tonight.
versus Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Who do you got winning this one, Andy?
So yeah, what I want them to really fight. Like I know it's an exhibition battle, right? I don't want them to go in there and entertain America for a number of rounds, just like swapping. I want Mike Tyson to go in there. So Mike Tyson we grew up with, Dave, the guy that knocked out Carl the Truth Williams in moments, the guy that knocked out Hurricane Pete McNeely in seconds, right? I want him to go in there. I want him to hit that uppercut hook combo. I want to see Mike Tyson light this guy. And listen, all of America does. And Jake Paul knows it. Like, that's what's going to make this successful for Netflix is that everybody wants to see Jake Paul get knocked out by Mike Tyson. 58 years old, looking great, one of the greatest knockout artists of all of boxing history. I want to see Mike Tyson get in there and just get a badass knockout. I don't know if we're going to see it. I don't know if he's going to do it.
Yeah.
He can, and I hope he does.
Well, I mean, along the Zuckerberg claims, like Jake Paul, like we can make fun of him because he's a fucking idiot and he's a YouTube person or whatever. But the reality, I mean, he does train and he does try to fight.
Yeah.
It's always though he's fighting these second tier and sub tier boxers, and the only real boxer he fought, he lost to. And so I think it's going to be fascinating to watch this because again, Tyson's 58 and I
Yeah.
know he's in great shape and he's looks good, but he's still 58. And so I think this is just going to be interesting. I would love nothing more than that uppercut to put Paul on the mat and just shut him up, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. And so well, I don't think shutting him up will ever happen. He'll still be talking. But it's hard to know what's show and what's real. I mean, Tyson generally seems to want to be able to put this in and
Yeah.
knock this guy out. So we'll see how it plays out. But should be interesting tonight. Will be something we can talk about on Monday for sure. Andy, anything before we wrap up this week? We got a ton of movies coming out in the next 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
we'll probably talk some movies. Are we going to see it or are we not? We're definitely in for Moana, but are the other movies out there coming out? But anything else you want to wrap up with it, Andy?
No, I'm Dave. A lot to cover today. I'm excited about this match tonight. So I think happy Friday to you, to all that are listening. Mid-month November already. Dave, we're about to Thanksgiving. Like there's a lot going on. So appreciate anybody that's dialing in. Always appreciate spending some morning time with you, David.
I love it, Andy. I love it. All right, sir. With that, happy birthday again.
Thank you.
And I hope Mama Jabor brings you a cake tonight. But no pressure, Mama Jabor. No pressure. We know your lovely wife will take care of you tonight for sure with a nice cake and ice cream or whatever you desire tonight, Andy. All right, that was a little awkward ending there. So with that, I think we'll just wrap up here, Andy. So I'll catch up with you Monday.